Naomi Klein, Doppelganger, A Trip into the Mirror World. And Doppelganger, A Trip into the Mirror World, Naomi Klein delves into a compelling exploration of identity and ideology amidst a growing landscape of misinformation and polarization. Through the lens of her peculiar connection with her doppelganger, Naomi Wolf, Klein sheds light on how distorted narratives and conspiracy theories have shaped public discourse. The book navigates the themes of identity, societal doubling, and political tribalism, emphasizing the dangers these pose to liberal democracies. Expect to dive into Klein's astute analysis of social media's role in exaggerating political divides, the emergence of strange bedfellows beyond traditional ideological lines, and the urgent need for solidarity amidst these splintered times. Klein's work highlights the critical importance of fostering complexity, empathy, and interconnectedness to counteract the simplistic binaries and incendiary rhetoric that threaten meaningful discourse and democratic cohesion.
Mirrors of misinformation. From the start, Klein found herself uncomfortably mirrored in Wolf's increasingly bizarre publications. Wolf transitioned from thoughtful feminist works to promoting conspiracy theories, distorting Klein's progressive criticisms into something almost unrecognizable. When Klein explored disaster capitalism and its exploitation of crises in The Shock Doctrine, Wolf twisted it, claiming crises like COVID lockdowns were engineered by political elites for power grabs. Klein remained silent initially, uneasy about being confused with Wolf and wary of drawing more attention to their mistaken association. The confusion was mutual, each woman had to clarify controversial statements attributed to the other. During the COVID-19 pandemic, Klein observed Wolf dive deeply into spreading medical conspiracy theories, even misusing Klein's ideas to suggest COVID was a fabricated crisis. Wolf's platforms became hotspots for coronavirus misinformation, dramatically growing her following. This phenomenon wasn't isolated. Klein noted similar trends in mainstream media, where pundits increasingly portrayed exaggerated versions of their ideological opposites. Klein recognized this as a form of societal doubling, where opposing groups are depicted as fascist doubles within liberal democracies. Such dynamics contributed to a polarized public discourse fueled by opposition to ideological enemies. Klein hoped that by shedding light on these forces, society could break free from this polarization, escaping the distorted reflections that complicate and confuse critical societal discourse. Digital echo chamber. In the chaotic landscape shaped by the pandemic, social media's inherent tendencies are sharply exposed. Platforms like Facebook and Twitter have constructed environments where divisive content attracts more attention. These dynamics create a spectacle where politics resembles a tribal performance, with figures adopting identities in opposition to others. As outrage becomes the prized currency, the potential for collective action wanes, destabilized by figures like Naomi Wolf who morph to maintain relevance by spreading conspiracy theories. Wolf's trajectory from respected author to conspiracist reflects a broader trend. Voices grow more extreme to stay visible, especially when algorithms reward such behavior. This shift was stark during COVID-19, with polarization surging as people were led into increasingly radical echo chambers. A 2020 study underscored that social media nudged users into spiraling down tunnels of extreme viewpoints, often untethered from truth, making societal challenges ripe for exploitation. When the public fractures into opposing factions, perspectives blur, allowing threats to masquerade undetected and eroding the capacity for shared solutions. This splintered vision can push democracies towards authoritarian edges, where people rally behind strongmen to crush perceived adversaries. Klein muses on the elements dragging Wolf into cohesion with figures like Steve Bannon, positing an equation: social media addiction combined with personal crises and narcissism, tempered by public scrutiny, fuels right-wing transformation. Beneath this lies a deeper crisis, where societies glimpse their distorted reflections and inch toward authoritarian shadows. The pandemic, interwoven with lingering societal issues, thrusts humanity into this eerie juncture between realities. Polarized Echoes. Imagine a world where your own double amplifies every divisive whisper in politics and media, this is the reality Naomi Klein exposes. She observes a troubling phenomenon, the normalization of once extreme rhetoric within mainstream narratives. On the right, racial conspiracies, which used to lurk in the shadows, are now voiced on primetime cable news, eroding social cohesion and paving the way for potential atrocities. Meanwhile, the left champions radical changes, such as abolishing traditional family structures, which can alienate potential allies. These polarized extremes fracture society at a time when unity is crucial to tackling global challenges like pandemics and climate change. Material decline sharpens the focus on symbolic battles rather than addressing root issues, risking the empowerment of anti-democratic agendas. In this chaotic battlefield, tribalism supersedes meaningful discourse, reducing politics to mere score settling and fueling harsh reprisals. Klein argues for a departure from these shrill oppositions towards a landscape where complexity and respect for our opponents reclaim the narrative. Escaping this polarized echo chamber demands reclaiming our shared humanity and forging alliances that transcend differences. By recognizing common interests amidst crises, we begin unfurling paths away from societal fragmentation. Such reorientation requires the strength to leap beyond cultural conflicts and embrace a principled universalism, protecting us from empowering reactionary forces that thrive on division. As Klein lights the way through these polarized echoes, she offers hope for unity and shared progress. Breaking politics binary. The traditional left-right political spectrum is no longer adequate for today's increasingly complex and fragmented world. Unlikely alliances form as public figures and individuals cling to oppositional identities rather than clear-cut ideologies. Social media's focus on engagement fuels this division, dragging people toward extremes and eroding the pragmatic center where compromise once thrived. Amid growing inequalities, climate crises, and the destabilizing effects of the pandemic, many turn to simple, divisive narratives that impede collective problem-solving. This reflexive tribalism risks enhancing authoritarian tendencies, as people seek power to quash perceived enemies and uphold fragile identities. Today's political landscape defies old classifications: left-wing authoritarians, right-wing civil libertarians, and unorthodox alignments abound, underscoring shared psychological and institutional blind spots. The challenge lies in restoring nuance and fostering dialogue that transcends partisan boundaries. Real progress demands a reassessment of political identities to forge new foundations for solidarity. Klein envisions building unified values strong enough to withstand future challenges through a reimagined moral compass centered on interconnectedness and empathy. A movement focused on justice and democracy should transcend authoritarianism, offering substantial change instead of empty rhetoric. To realign politics away from divisive polemics requires empathy, listening, and recognizing shared human experiences. Redirecting political energies toward addressing systemic issues can foster a more focused and hopeful collective consciousness, potentially enabling the pragmatic center to regain its strength. Unity beyond division. Society may appear irrevocably fractured, divided by stereotypes that paint opponents as mere caricatures. Yet, beneath this deceptive veneer, common ground remains. Viewing each other as complex individuals rather than faceless adversaries offers the possibility of bridging gaps. A practical way to start dismantling these barriers involves engaging with perspectives that differ from your own, whether through media or direct conversation with those who challenge your beliefs. Self-reflection plays a crucial role too. By catching oneself in the act of oversimplifying people into boxes, individuals can begin to seek out nuanced understanding. These initial steps can uncover shared interests such as healthcare, education, and climate sustainability, paving the way for collaboration that transcends partisan divides. Klein suggests that forming diverse coalitions focused on structural reforms rather than petty feuds could reinvigorate a democratic society presently endangered by authoritarian temptations. And while empathy for those drawn to such promises is vital, acknowledging their underlying anxieties is just as important. Addressing the intertwined crises of modern society, like pandemics and climate change, demands framing these challenges as universal, not merely partisan. Creating confidence in collaborative solutions becomes essential since no one is untouched by these global threats. Klein envisions moving away from polarized viewpoints, instead channeling the intensity of division toward addressing systemic issues that universally affect us, such as inequality, environmental degradation, racism, and corruption. By rising to a higher level of civic engagement and imagination, aligned interests may emerge from the shadows of discord. This could form a foundation where collective hope triumphs over despair, offering a path forward for a more unified society.
Naomi Klein offers a powerful call to recognize and transcend the divisive dynamics that have increasingly pervaded global politics. Highlighting the extreme narratives fueled by social media and ideology-driven echo chambers, she warns against the perils of political fragmentation and their potential to push societies toward authoritarianism. Klein advocates for a return to nuanced discourse, urging individuals to bridge ideological divides by seeking out diverse perspectives and building broad coalitions centered on shared human interests. The book emphasizes the critical role of empathy and interconnectedness in steering away from destructive polarization towards unified action in addressing pressing global challenges like pandemics and climate change. Ultimately, Doppelganger is a clarion call to reimagine political alliances and rebuild a society grounded in shared values and collective hope, offering a path forward that transcends the superficial conflicts of today's fractured world.